Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down exactly how to build a data analytics portfolio that'll actually get you hired in 2026. And spoiler alert, it's less about your technical skills and way more about demonstrating real business impact.
Okay, let's really dig into this because this one sentence from Forrester, it basically sums up everything that's changing. The Wild West days of just playing with cool AI models to see what happens, they're over. Companies now want to see the results.
And here is the hard proof. A full quarter of all planned enterprise AI spending is being delayed, pushed into 2027. So what's going on? Well, the CFOs, the people who actually control the money, are stepping in and asking one very simple, very tough question. What is our return on this investment? If you can't show a clear path to profit, your project is getting put on ice.
This is what everyone's calling the hard hat era of AI. It's less about the hype and more about rolling up your sleeves and building something that provides real, measurable value. So here's the bottom line for you. To get hired in 2026, your portfolio has to scream business results, not just clean code.
Okay, so how are we going to tackle this? Here's our game plan for today. We'll start by digging into this big market shift, then I'm going to walk you through a 3-level project roadmap for your portfolio, and we'll wrap up with exactly how to talk about your work to absolutely nail that final interview. All right, first up, the 2026 ROI reset. And look, this isn't just some passing trend. It is a fundamental change in how data projects are getting the green light.
I mean, just look at the difference here. It's a night and day shift. Just a little while ago, it was all about experimental pilots, just testing capabilities. Now, the standard is a direct, measurable impact on the company's profit and loss statement. Every single project now has to answer that "so what" question in dollars and cents.
So, the big question is, how do you build a portfolio that speaks this new language of ROI? Well, you've got to start with a really solid foundation. And your first project should be an absolute classic, a sales and KPI dashboard.
Now, the goal here seems pretty straightforward, but it's incredibly powerful. You're showing that you can take messy, raw sales data and weave it into a clear story about what's actually driving profit. This project proves you get the core metrics that literally every business on the planet cares about. Okay, and this slide, this is basically your non-negotiable toolkit for any entry-level analyst in 2026. Seriously, this isn't about picking your favorite tool, it's about showing you can handle the entire workflow. You need Excel for that initial data cleaning, SQL to pull data like a pro, and a BI tool like Tableau or Power BI to present it all in a way a business leader can actually understand.
All right, so once you've got that foundation nailed down, it's time to level up. You've shown you can report on what happened. Now you have to prove you can explain why it happened. And there's no better way to do that than with a customer churn analysis project.
And this is where you really start to flex some different muscles. You're moving beyond just SQL and getting into Python for some heavier lifting with data. But even more important is that you're applying some real statistical rigor, using things like hypothesis testing to prove that the patterns you're seeing are real and not just some random fluke.
And this is what a recruiter sees. This is the real payoff. You're not just a tech person who can build a dashboard anymore. No, you're a strategic partner who can look at a huge business problem, like keeping customers, and offer up real, actionable, data-backed solutions. Okay, let's talk about the final boss of your portfolio, the advanced project. This is where you prove you're not just a data analyst, you're an AI power user. You can use AI as a force multiplier to solve complex problems, and you can do it efficiently and responsibly.
So, this means you need to get comfortable with a huge concept for 2026, agentic intelligence. The simplest way to think about it, imagine AI agents that are like little automated employees who can reason, plan, and handle entire workflows all by themselves.
So what does that look like in a project? It could mean using an LLM to automatically write summaries of your findings, or using an AutoML tool to quickly spin up a predictive model. But here's the kicker, and this is so important. You have to show you can govern these things. Documenting your steps for privacy and bias proves you get the risks and can be trusted with these powerful tools.
Okay, so you've built this amazing 3-part portfolio. You're feeling good, but guess what? The projects themselves are only half the battle. Now you have to talk about them. And frankly, this is where so many people stumble. And this brings me to my absolute favorite analogy for this whole process. I call it the dentist analogy. Think about it. When you go to the dentist, you don't care about the specific model of the drill they're using. You just want them to fix your tooth, right?
right? So here's the deal. When you're in an interview, you have to lead with the cure, not the drill. Don't start by geeking out about your Python script or SQL query. Start with the result. I found a way to decrease customer churn by 12%. The tools are just how you got there. The business impact, that's the real story.
Okay, let's bring this all home. We're going to wrap up with your final interview prep so you know exactly how to communicate all this value and really truly stand out from the crowd.
You've probably heard of the STAR method, right? Situation, task, action, result. It's classic for a reason. But for 2026, you need to live and breathe in that result part. Every story you tell has to end with a specific, quantified business outcome. And you've got to be ready for a totally different interview landscape. First, you need to be what's called a domain hybrid. Not just a data person, but a data person who really gets finance or healthcare. Second, you have to show statistical skepticism, meaning you can prove you double-checked the AI's work. And get this, don't be shocked if you end up in a virtual reality assessment. Yeah, that's really happening.
So when you look at how all these skills break down, it's pretty telling, right? Look at communication. It's right up there with the hardcore technical stuff. And that is absolutely on purpose. The perfect candidate in 2026 has the technical chops to find the insight and the communication skills to convince the company to actually do something about it. And really, this is the single most important takeaway. In 2026, the best data analyst isn't the person who knows the most code. It's the one who is a true strategic partner, the person who connects every single thing they do back to the company's bottom line. You're a business problem solver first, who just happens to use data to do it.
So as you go off and start building or maybe refining your portfolio, I want you to ask yourself this one simple question. Because at the end of the day, companies aren't hiring your toolkit. They're hiring your story of impact. So make sure yours is a story they just can't afford to ignore.